Hi, my name is Ramsey Cater, and today I'll be showing you how you can use Xbox Live's connected storage in your game. In this scenario, we're going to go ahead and show you how you can wrap stats in connected storage. So connected storage, you can think of it kind of like a file structure, and it supports offline roaming modes. So you can imagine that we have this file for our stats. Now, files in connected storage are called containers. So in this stats container or file, they have you might have some stats. So you might have wins, games played, or kills. And these pairs, these key value pairs, are actually blobs. They're called blobs in connected storage. So if you look at another example, you'll see we have the container inventory, and it has the blobs skin, pickaxe, and dance. Now, what's really cool about connected storage is not only can you save these stats while online and connected to the game, you can also save these stats while offline and roaming. So, for example, let's say you're on your Xbox, your internet dies, and you get your 11th win in a game. Well, you're offline, so you have no connectivity, but you want that stat to persist, right? You can still write that stat to the service, the connected storage, and it'll save it locally. Once that Xbox connects back to the internet without having to open the game up again, that data will automatically save and sync with the service. So in this case, when the Xbox connects back, that 11th win will automatically upload to the connected storage service. So next time I open my Xbox, I'll have it. Now, the other cool thing is it supports roaming. So imagine I'm at my friend's house playing my game on their Xbox, and I get my 50th kill, right? Well, I want to make sure that when I go home to play on my Xbox, I have that 50th kill stat. Well, you can't with connected storage. It will actually sync across devices. The connected storage is data that's saved to a specific user. So now that we have that out of the way, let's hop into Unity and actually show you how you can get this integrated into your game today. So I have this sample project, which you can download from the GitHub link in the description. And all it does is there's four main buttons. There's an initialize button that initializes the connected storage service. We have a button that generates a random number, and then we can either save that random number to the connected storage, or we can load a random number from connected storage. Now, before we can do that, we have to set up our project to work with Xbox Live. Now, you can do that by getting the Xbox Live Unity package that I've also included the GitHub repo down below. Now, keep in mind that that repo is actually open source, and we really highly recommend you contribute back to it and very welcoming of those contributions. So we can go to Assets, Import Custom Package, and then just navigate to where your Xbox Live Unity package is. Today I'll be using the 1804 release. Now we're going to go ahead and import all of uh, the plugin. Once you have the plugin downloaded it into your project, we have to go and actually get the game save plugin, which is our kind of manager to handle connected storage. So you can do this by going to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and then navigating to your project, and then going to Xbox Live Game Save, and then choosing the Game Save Unity package. Again, here we're going to go ahead and import the entire package. Now, once that's in, you can notice that in this game save folder, we now have an examples, prefabs, and scripts folders. Awesome. So now that we have the entire Unity plugin imported to our Unity project, let's go ahead and set up our project to work with Xbox Live. So now that we have the package in here, you'll notice that we have this Xbox Live tab up here. We'll click on the tab, go to configuration, and this is the Xbox Live association wizard. This essentially walks you through that process to connect to the Xbox Live. So go ahead and sign in with your Windows developer account. And from here, choose, you can either create a new app or choose one that already exists. I'm gonna go ahead and choose this one right here. It's gonna ensure that Xbox Live is connected, and then from there we go ahead and choose the sandbox, and then that's it. We're done. So now we have Xbox Live configuration on associated with this project. One last thing we have to do is we have to go to the build settings, which we can do from Control Shift B or File Build Settings. You have to change your platform to Universal Windows Platform. And then for this scenario, I'm actually using uh, Unity 4.6, sorry, .NET 4.6. And my setup is kind of strange. My Unity is doesn't import the plugin correctly, so I have to go to the libs folder here, to the Unity editor folder, .NET 4.6, and just ensure that these two are both set up to work within the editor. Great. So now I'm fully connected to Xbox Live. So now we can start integrating Xbox Live into our game. Before we get to connected storage, we do need to get a player signed in. So we can go to the Xbox Live folder, prefabs, and actually drag the player authentication prefab, which handles the whole sign-in flow. Now the player authentication prefab actually depends on the Xbox Live services prefab, which we can also drag onto the scene now. Now, one thing to keep in mind at this stage is we want to keep track of this player number. Now, this is the number that's going to be associated with the user that logs in using this prefab. Now, in this case, it's 1, but you can set it to any arbitrary number. Now that we have the user signed in, let's go to the connected storage script object up here. We're going to go ahead and open up this connected storage script. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and store a copy of the Xbox Live user that's signed in and the game save helper. Now the game save helper again is the Unity package script that kind of abstracts the complexity of connected storage. And the reason why we want to store the user is because all the data that we're storing is user specific. So we want to keep track of that user that we're storing. Now if you had multiple users, you would have to have a copy of the game save helper for each user you want to save data for. So go ahead and create an Xbox Live user, and then we'll also create an instance of game save helper. Great. Now, if you remember from the presentation, there's two main elements in connected storage. We have the container and the blob. So the container is that file, and then the blob is that key value pair. So we're gonna go ahead and store those values. So we're gonna store a string for the container name. We're gonna store that stats. That's the folder we're storing. And then we're gonna keep track of the key in our key value pair as a string as well. I'm gonna say that maybe the status score, but this could be anything. This could be score, kills, whatever is configured in your developer portal. You can also have multiple of these. You can have, you can imagine you have 3 or 4 different names for you have a score, a wins, a kills, deaths, one for each of your stats. So now that we have all that set up, we can actually go into the initialize method and get started. So all of GameSave helpers methods are asynchronous, and you can actually wrap those calls in a start coroutine method. So initialize is no different. We're going to go ahead, and before we initialize, we need to get access to the user. So we can actually get the user from the sign in manager, which is a script, a Unity level script that handles all the users within your game. Now, there's actually a get player method that we can call and pass it the player number that we had in the prefab. So we're passing it to it 1 because the value of the player authentication player number property is also 1. So these have to match. So once we have that user, we have to go ahead and create the game save helper. Now we have to initialize the game save helper. Remember that initialize is actually asynchronous, so we can wrap that in a start coroutine method. The initialize takes a user, and then we'll give you a callback. So in this case, we kind of want to print to ensure that uh, we can see the status of what's happening. So if the result is successful, then we're gonna go ahead and share that with the console. If it's not, we want to say that it failed. We want to tell the console why. So once we've initialized, let's go ahead to the save method. Now, the first thing we want to do in this save method is we want to ensure that the game save helper is initialized. So we can do that by leveraging the isInitialized method. If it's not, we just want to go ahead and let the console know. Now, if it is, we want to format the data in a way that the game save helper can understand. Now, the game save helper accepts a lot of different kinds of input, but for today's tutorial, we're going to go over how to convert your data into a byte array. So remember, blobs are key value pairs. So the best way to keep track of key value pair in C# is through a dictionary. So let's go ahead and create a dictionary where the key is a string and the value is a byte array. Now, we only have one stat, one piece of data, key value pair, one blob we want to store. So it's super simple. All we have to do is data, the blob name, which is whatever the key you want it to be. So it can be maybe it can be like, how many kills you have, how much coins you have. It can be what level you're on currently, whatever key you want to assign it. And then for the data, we're actually going to encode the random number into a byte array. So we can go to system.text.encoding, Unicode or any encoding that you would like, and then we can get bytes and pass to it the random number to string. Awesome. So what this method is doing is it's taking the random value that we generate, converting it to a string, and then passing that string object to this encoder, which converts it into a byte array that we can store in this data structure. So now that we have a data structure that, and you can imagine if you have multiple stats, you might do this a few times and change this to something like kills, wins, played, right? Whatever you want to store it to. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and actually pass this to the game save helper. So remember, all methods in game save helper are actually asynchronous, so the save method is included. We're going to go ahead and wrap that save method in a start coroutine. Game save helper dot submit updates, where we're going to pass to it the container name, the data, the blobs to delete, which we don't have any in this case, and then some kind of callback. So the callback here is a success or not. So whether this was successfully saved. I want to go ahead and just store that, pass that information along to the console. So if the result was successful, we're gonna go and let the Unity know. If it wasn't, we're gonna tell them it wasn't, and we'll show them why. Now the load is a similar structure. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually copy this method and get rid of the guts. Now for the load method, we want to ensure that the game safe helper is actually initialized, and if it's not, we want to let Unity know. And then to get the data, we're gonna go ahead and start a new coroutine because these methods are asynchronous. Game save helper get as bytes because we store them as bytes. It's gonna ask for the container name, the blobs to read. Now, because I only have one blob, I feel confident initializing the string array inside of here. But if you have multiple, you might want to initialize it elsewhere. So I'll initialize my list of keys that I want from this container. In this case, it's just this one blob. And then it's going to give me a result, which is actually a dictionary of key value pairs with the blobs and the values. So we have this dictionary. We want to ensure that our stat is in here. So we do that by doing the result that contains key and passing to it the key that we want. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and we're going to share a failure message to the console. Now, if the result's in here, we can actually go ahead and save that content to the stored value text. But remember, it's a byte array. For us to go and convert a byte array back to a string, we have to go to system.text.encoding.unicode, make sure the codings match, and then we're going to get string, pass to it whatever values associated with our blob name. And there we go. That's the high level of how you would read and write to the connected storage. So now if I go back here, I give Unity the opportunity to build. I can actually save this scene, build it out to a Visual Studio project. So once the project is built, we can actually open up that solution. Change the target to something that my machine can understand. So once the project has finally deployed, go ahead and sign in, and then we'll go ahead and initialize the game save helper. From there, we're going to go ahead and generate a random number, store that random number. You can actually load that random number. Sweet. Now, let me go ahead and run this one more time. So on a fresh load, if I sign in again, and then I initialize, and I load the number, you can see that that number was stored successfully. So there you have it. This is how you write to connect to storage. I hope you learned something. Again, everything you need is in the description below. The plugin is actually open source, and we definitely welcome questions and contributions back on that repo. I've also included my email in the description if you have any questions, or you can post them in the comments. I'm more than happy to help. Peace.